When I was thinking about a title for this morning's marriage moment, I got the picture of us going around that mountain again and again and again. And God lets us go around that mountain till we learn the lesson, doesn't he? And in the way God confirmed in me that I was on the right track and I'm hearing from him, I opened one of my workbooks, and in the subject there was a chart, and we started in Egypt, and we went through the wilderness, and we ended up in the promised land. And that's kind of like that, going around the mountain. So have you ever been having a discussion with your spouse, just an ordinary discussion, and before you know it, you're having that same old argument over and over again, and you don't really know how you got there because it just started out as a nice conversation and somebody's button got pushed and something got said? Well, the National Institute of Marriage, they call it the fear cycle. And this is what it looks like, around and around and around. So everybody's going to get one of these when you leave today. The second page is where you identify your buttons, and the third page is where you identify your reactions. And then on this first page, you'll put your top ones for you and your spouse so that you can learn each other's buttons and reactions. I used to say Steve had a redhead temper, and it was so far down, you guys never saw it. But me and Jeremy knew where that button was, and we could push it and send him through the roof. So I would react, which would push Steve's buttons, and he'd react, and on we'd go. So why do we need to know our buttons and our reactions? If we take the time to understand our own button has been pushed, then instead of reacting and carrying on, we can stop the cycle right there. The way to start to change your pattern is to focus on each other's buttons instead of their reactions. We can have similar buttons in our husbands and wives, and that can be good and bad. The bad news is it makes it easy to stab their button. But the good news is you can have compassion for each other and understand how they feel. Steve's mom has liked to say several times since we lost Steve that Steve liked to push your buttons, Jeannie. He just liked to watch you react. And he would do it on Facebook with people. I would say he was poking the bear. So it's our choice to not push buttons, and most important, we're in charge of our reactions if our button is pushed. It's important that we realize we bring our half of that fear cycle into every relationship, even with God. God doesn't have any buttons, so guess what? He's not reactive. While our buttons are pushed, we feel unsafe. We want to close off. We want to protect ourselves. Openness takes less energy than being closed and defensive. Kind of like it takes fewer muscles to smile than to frown. And when we're open with each other, intimacy happens and it doesn't require any effort. Feeling safe is a key ingredient to a successful marriage. 1 John 4:18, there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. I was a little worried about doing this lesson because I don't want people to have a fight over this. This is a tool to help you guys, and I don't want there to be blame game going on with this. It's to identify stuff so you can take a step in your own self, because I chose to react when Steve pushed a button, or I chose not to react, and that's your opportunity also. And so I hope you take the time to do the handout, share with each other, and there might even be buttons you don't know you're pushing, because sometimes we do it by accident and don't even realize it. And remember, our button might be pushed, but if we don't react, we break that cycle.